Hello, happy Monday. I'm Melissa Hekalean. This is TVB News. The Fire Services Department has completed fire safety enforcement actions targeting commercial and residential complex buildings across the city. The department has issued over 8,000 fire hazard abatement notices, with over 90% of them being complied. Prosecutions have been made against more than 300 cases for failing to comply with the notices. Samantha Lee tells us more.
Following a blaze that left 5 people dead at a commercial and residential complex building in Jordan back in April, the Fire Services Department conducted over 8,200 inspections at around 1,000 high-risk buildings. The authorities issued 8,500 notices to some 600 buildings. Nearly 30% of the notices were related to smoke doors being left open. The others were about broken smoke doors and escape routes being blocked. The department also made over 350 prosecutions over buildings failing to comply with abatement notices. One building was in breach of more than 20 regulations due to its broken smoke door. The owner's corporation of the building was fined $30,000. Wong Yuk-ping, acting deputy chief fire officer, said it was quite common to see smoke doors being left open, perhaps for ventilation purposes. He noted when a fire breaks out, the fire may be toxic. He urged the public not to place anything at the back stairs, as this may block the evacuation route. The department said it will set up a special team to continue inspecting buildings to enhance fire safety. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The Hong Kong Observatory expects a low temperature of about 14 degrees Celsius around the winter solstice time. According to the observatory, a dry northeast monsoon will continue to affect Guangdong in the next couple days. The weather will remain fine and dry during the day and cool in the morning. Inland areas will be cold with large temperature differences between day and night. The monsoon is expected to affect southern China in the latter part of this week and early next week. South Korea's Constitutional Court on Monday began reviewing the impeachment of President Yoon Suk-yeol over his December 3rd martial law attempt. Authorities are starting a process to decide if he will be removed from office, while investigators plan to question him this week. The court will hold the first public hearing on December 27th. The court has up to 6 months to decide whether to remove Yoon from office or to reinstate him. Tracy Furness reports.
The first hearing on December 27th will be preparatory to confirm major legal issues of the case. Yoon is not required to attend that hearing. A Constitution Court Public Affairs official confirmed that a Chief Justice for the case has been decided, but the identity of the Chief Justice will remain a secret. Yoon and a number of senior officials face potential charges of insurrection for imposing the short-lived martial law. A joint team of investigators from the police, Defense Ministry and an anti-corruption agency are planning to call Yoon in for questioning on Wednesday. But investigators tried to serve a summons for Yoon to appear, delivering it to the presidential office and his official residence. But the Presidential Security Service declined to receive it, saying it was not in a position to do so. The opposition leader Lee Jae-myung urged the Constitutional Court to rule swiftly to remove President Yoon from office. Korea University law professor Chang Yong-soo says it will be a 50-50 chance of Yoon being removed from office. It will depend on the evidence. If there is no further evidence beyond what President Yoon has said, there won't be any way to recognize the charge of rebellion, he said. Meanwhile, South Korea's ruling party leader, Han Dong-hoon, stepped down 2 days after Parliament passed the motion to impeach President Yoon. Han said, High Council members have resigned, which has made it impossible for me to carry out my duty as the party leader. I want to sincerely apologize to everyone who has suffered in fear of martial law. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The United Nations hopes to see a quick end to the sanctions against Syria after the fall of former President Bashar al-Assad. The Syrian government has been hit by sanctions from the United States, European Union, and others since the start of civil war in 2011. Meanwhile, Syrians are trying to bring life back to normal in a country devastated by 13 years of conflict. Nazvi Karim has more.
These kids in Damascus are lining up for a new era. The first day of school since former President Bashar al-Assad was ousted last week by a rebel force. School principal Maysoon Al-Ali said the children turned up despite a lingering sense of fear so soon after Assad's ousting. We are trying to build up this country, she said. Universities are also open. Student Riba Al-Ahmed says the situation is peaceful and professors are encouraging them to attend. The first Sunday Mass of the new regime as well at the Al-Zaytun Church in Old Damascus. Syrian Christian Susan Barakat says their prayers are for a new page in Syria's future, a future where our rights are guaranteed and we can have a noble life. It's all part of an effort by the interim government to restore a sense of normalcy to the country, which has been unshackled from more than 50 years of a brutal regime led by Assad and before him his father Hafez. But the future is far from clear. The plan is for rebel leader Ahmed al-Sharaa to rule until elections in March, with an economy shattered by years of war, weighed down by sanctions and Israel conducting airstrikes and encroaching on territory.
We need to get the political process on the way that is inclusive of all Syrians. That process obviously is led by the Syrians themselves. Then the second challenge, that of course is to get the state institutions, and then of course is the whole question about economic recovery. We need to see that this is tricky.
The road to normalcy also involves maintaining law and order. Here, rebel fighters try to stop people from looting abandoned homes. Syria must also deal with Israel's actions. Naval military vessels are damaged and half sunk at the northern Latakia port after Israeli airstrikes. Israel's military has also breached the buffer zone on the occupied Golan Heights. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his government has approved plans to expand its settlements and double the population there. Both Israel and Syrian leaders say they don't want a conflict. Arab countries, including Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, have condemned Netanyahu's plans as a deliberate attempt to expand the occupation. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump amid a push to secure the release of hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. Trump's Middle East envoy last week warned of consequences if the 100 hostages held by Hamas are not released before his inauguration on January 20th. The talks come as Israel continues its bombardment of Gaza. On Sunday, more than 30 people were killed in a series of strikes, around half of them at a school in the town of Beit Hanun. The dead included a girl and her parents, and a father and son. In Gaza City, at least 17 people, including women and children, were killed in 3 separate airstrikes that hit houses sheltering displaced people. In Deir al-Bala in central Gaza, at least 3 civil defense workers were killed. And in Germany, Chancellor Olaf Scholz today faces a no-confidence vote, which he is expected to lose, paving the way for an early election in February. Scholz's 3-party government collapsed on November 6th when he fired his finance minister, whose pro-business party then promptly quit the ruling coalition. It left the 2 center-left partners without a majority in parliament. Scholz's Social Democrats hold 207 seats in the 733-seat chamber, and their partner Greens has 117, far short of the 367 majority needed. If Scholz loses, President Frank-Walter Steinmeier must decide whether to dissolve the lower house. Amid a stagnant economy, polls show Scholz's party trailing behind the main opposition Union bloc, led by center-right rival Friedrich Merz. In Brazil, doctors discharged Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva from a Sao Paulo hospital on Sunday. This after emergency surgery last week to treat and prevent bleeding in his head. The 79-year-old president spoke alongside doctors in a news conference to show that he was doing well following his surgery. Lula's medical team said the surgery went well and that the president would be able to walk and hold meetings as he rests at home. But doctors added that international travel would be out of the question until further notice. Welcome back. The French Indian Ocean territory of Mayotte has been hit by the worst cyclone in 90 years. Cyclone Cheeto blew through the region over the weekend, leaving hundreds of people dead in Mayotte. The nearby islands of Comoros and Madagascar were also affected. The storm has now moved into northern Mozambique, where it continues to cause serious damage. Daniel Rao tells us more.
Mayotte was directly in Cyclone Cheeto's path as it tore through the Indian Ocean. The cyclone brought winds in excess of 220 kilometers per hour, making it a Category 4 cyclone, the second strongest on the scale. Local officials claim the death toll from Cheeto has reached several hundred. French President Emmanuel Macron said his thoughts were with the people of Mayotte as rescuers and firefighters were sent from France and the nearby French territory of Réunion. The French Interior Ministry said 1,600 police and gendarmerie officers have been deployed to help the population and prevent potential looting. In some parts of Mayotte, entire neighborhoods of metal shacks and huts were flattened. Residents reported trees had been uprooted, boats flipped or sunk, and many areas were without power. Cheeto has continued its eastern trajectory and moved into northern Mozambique, where it caused serious damage. In Mozambique, UNICEF said Cabo Delgado province, home to around 2 million people, was the first region to be hit. Many homes, schools and health facilities have been partially or completely destroyed. UNICEF Mozambique spokesman Guy Taylor said communities face the prospect of being cut off from schools and health facilities for weeks. December through to March is cyclone season in the southwestern Indian Ocean. Southern Africa has been pummeled by a series of strong ones in recent years. Dan Orell, TV News.
Recently, more and more claw machines can be found across the city. The Consumer Council says it received 42 complaints about claw machine shops in the first 11 months of the year, triple the number from the same period last year. Samantha Lee tells us more.
Claw machines are increasingly prevalent in the city in recent years. Many consumers are drawn to test their skills and luck. As of November this year, the Consumer Council received 42 complaints about claw machines, compared with 14 from the same period last year. In one case, the complainant said whenever she had managed to lift the toy, the pincers would automatically loosen once the claw reached the top. When she raised the issue with a staff member of the shop, she was told that there was a guaranteed grab mechanism. That is, when a player had spent up to a certain amount, the claw would maintain its grip until it reached the price chute. Consumers had to spend $100 for the guaranteed grab. The complainant said it was impossible to win without invoking this mechanism. Plus, there was no related information displayed in the store. She got a full refund eventually. In another case, a consumer spent about $500 and finally succeeded in grabbing an instant price paper slip. However, he didn't receive the waffle maker that he wanted, but a box of trinkets instead. The complainant contacted the machine operator, who refused to compromise. The Consumer Council has yet to reach the operator, so no agreement has been reached so far. The watchdog noted a court ruling in 2022 determined that claw machines do not meet the definition of entertainment under the Places of Public Entertainment Ordinance, and they are not subject to the licensing requirements.
Consumers are advised to spend rationally and be mindful of adaptation. Although some machines come with a guaranteed grab or guaranteed win design to reward players after a specific number of plays, consumers should assess whether the total amount spent is worth the value of the desired price.
The watchdog also suggested that consumers consider recording their gameplay as video evidence to support any claims in case of disputes. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The Consumer Council has found that 4 anti-dandruff shampoos available on the market contain substances banned by the EU for causing eye irritation. The watchdog tested 25 models of anti-dandruff shampoo. 4 were detected with the chemical ZPT at concentrations ranging from 0.19 to 0.95%. ZPT, an anti-dandruff ingredient with antibacterial properties, is prohibited by the EU cosmetics regulation. It is an eye irritant, and animal studies have shown that it may affect fetal development. The Consumer Council also found fragrance allergens in over 90% of the models. 2 models, hair corner and mentholatum, were found to contain a fragrance allergen, BMHCA, that was banned in the EU due to its potential reproductive toxicity. The watchdog has urged manufacturers to enhance their product formula and improve the labeling information. Meantime, speaking at Xinjiang's International Symposium on Employment and Social Security, local officials said over 70% of the government's annual expenditure goes to people's livelihood. They noted authorities have strengthened the autonomous region's employment strategy, which alleviates an average of more than 30,000 people from employment challenges each year. Timothy Lee reports.
Xinjiang officials noted at the symposium that the autonomous region recorded a rapid increase in investment, consumption, as well as imports and exports over the past year. The region is now placed among the top 5 in the nation for such economic figures. This as Xinjiang recorded a GDP of 1.45 trillion yuan during the first 3 quarters of this year, or an increase of 5.5%. The autonomous region's foreign exports during the first 11 months of this year also reached more than 400 billion yuan. Regarding livelihood issues, Xinjiang officials noted that over 70% of government expenditure directly benefited locals, as authorities pushed for improved employment-related policies. Such measures alleviated an average of more than 30,000 people from employment challenges each year. Erkan Tunias, the chairman of the autonomous region, said the government focused on resolving the employment issues of the agricultural sector and high school graduates. He added that investments were made in their education and training. Tunias stressed in order to ensure continual growth in the community's income, the government must resolutely protect residents' labor rights. The autonomous region's chairman noted locals must work under free and dignified conditions, and that religious and cultural customs of minorities need to be respected. Responding to U.S. allegations of forced Uyghur labor in the region, Tunias criticized Washington for its lies and disregard for the effectiveness achieved on Uyghur rights. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The Hong Kong Palace Museum will host a special joint Forbidden City Versailles exhibition starting on Wednesday. The exhibition, which celebrates the 60th anniversary of the Sino-French relationship, will showcase a host of artifacts from both the Chinese and French palaces in the 17th and 18th centuries. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Priceless artifacts from Beijing and Versailles, though more than 8,000 kilometers apart, have come together for the first time in Hong Kong in the Palace Museum's latest exhibition. Between the 18th of this month and the 4th of May next year, visitors will be able to view some 150 treasures from the 2 palaces. The exhibition also presents several pieces of artwork where bilateral cultural influences could easily be noticed, such as this French clock that was later modified by Chinese artisans with black lacquer panels. This Qing-era enamel, though similar to the rest of its kind from a distance, actually depicts a European clock where Chinese artists attempted to imitate Roman numerals. Yet the admiration was mutual. This portrait of the Tianlong Emperor, painted by Italian Jesuit Giuseppe Panzi in the 1700s, was acquired by French monarch Louis XVI and later displayed in a study in Versailles.
Visitors of the events will be able to see this world-renowned portrait of Louis XIV, painted by French artist Hyacinthe Rigaud in 1701. Besides various artworks and artifacts, they could also catch a glimpse of the contents of a letter written by the French king to his Chinese counterpart, the Kangxi Emperor. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
That is the news. Thanks for watching. Pearl Magazine is up shortly. See you then.